Let's get to our top story. A federal trade court has blocked many of President Trump's tariffs. A three-judge panel on what's called the International Court of Trade found that Trump's use of the decades-old International Emergency Economic Powers Act did not, quote, delegate an unbounded tariff authority to the president. The judges who heard the case were Reagan, Obama, and Trump appointees. The case stemmed from two lawsuits, one from several small businesses, the other a multi-state coalition led by the attorneys general in Arizona and Oregon.
And Willie, I've got to say, this is something so many people probably woke up this morning and said, what court's that? I mean, it's not a court that you really hear that much about, but it is interesting. Two Republican appointees, one Democratic appointee, and handing down a decision saying that these weren't emergencies. It's interesting. You also have Congress that has sort of ceded their power to the president. So you have three branches right now very much engaged in these tariffs. It's going to be interesting to see how it shakes out.
Yeah, and as we pointed out a minute ago, the markets love this news because they don't want tariffs to be imposed in the way that Donald Trump has imposed them or at all. So there's a rally in the futures markets this morning. Let's bring in two Democratic attorneys general, Dan Rayfield of Oregon and Chris Mays of Arizona. Good morning to you both. Let me start with you, General Rayfield, and just talk about the lawsuit you brought and what you expect to see from it.
Well, first, yeah, thanks for having us. It's a very exciting day. This is a very important ruling for all Americans. And the genesis of this lawsuit for us was really simple. It's about people. It's about small businesses. It's about the impacts that we're having in our states. This was going to be a $3,800 increase for everyday households. And I don't know a lot of families that can afford that. And so really the lawsuit was simple. It was like no president in the history of the United States had ever used this emergency power to set tariffs. President Trump himself didn't use this. He used the normal statutes that Congress gave him power to do, which put safeguards in for our economy. And that's what has been used in the history of these statutes. And President Trump tried to go around that because he didn't want to use those things. He didn't want those safeguards. We were really seeing the impacts on our daily lives. And so great ruling yesterday. We're tremendously excited. And I couldn't be more thankful to have an amazing partner in AG Mays down in Arizona.
Attorney General Mays, let me turn to you. Obviously, your reaction to the news last night from this court that we can acknowledge most Americans perhaps have not heard of. But we should know the Trump administration has already said they will file an appeal. So give us your thoughts as this matter seemingly far from finished.
Sure. Well, let me just start by echoing what A.G. Rayfield said. And we are so pleased, not just on behalf of, our states, but just all states and all consumers, and especially small businesses that were on the verge of being hammered by these tariffs, which really are taxes and tax increases. So we're very happy about this decision, but you're correct. The Trump administration has already indicated that they're going to try to get a stay on the Court of International Trade's decision, which was very sweeping, and put a halt within 10 days to all of these tariffs, essentially. We'll see what the court does. The court really issued a very strong opinion. They essentially made a decision on the merits of the case, and what is essentially a final decision by them, even though the states, we were asking for a preliminary injunction. So they actually went a little further than we were even asking for. So they're very strong in their decision. We'll see what they say when the Trump administration asks for a stay.
Well, that's sort of procedurally, I'm curious, Attorney General Rayfield, what is next? What do you predict and what are you prepared for in terms of the challenges ahead?
Well, first off, we wouldn't have brought this case if we didn't think it was a righteous case. And we wouldn't have brought this case if it wasn't impacting Americans across this country. And so we feel very confident as we move through the appeals process. If you actually listened to what the Trump's lawyers were arguing in court, it is befuddling. They were saying that any emergency order cannot be reviewed by any judge. Then they said any of the relief that they put out into the world as a result of that emergency order cannot be reviewed by a judge. Effectively, you could tax maple syrup in Canada to try and impact fentanyl in the U.S. Absurd stuff, and no judge could review it. And as AG Mays pointed out, these tariffs trickle down to us. So they could put in 1,000% tariff on any good, which would trickle down to us without any congressional approval and without any court being able to strike it down. That's how powerful the judge's order was yesterday, and really a rebuke of the Trump administration's belief that they are immune to review by the courts.
So, Claire McCaskill, we've learned this morning that this court, the U.S. Court of International Trade, is an Article 3 court, that was given its power from Article 3. I'm curious, had you, a lot of people woke up this morning going, okay, what's the court? What's its jurisdiction? Where? Have you had any dealings with this court before when you were in the Senate? Had you heard any actions from this court before? Or is this a one-off for you as well?
Well, no, when you work on policy issues surrounding trade, those decisions come into play. And I certainly was aware of the court. But, I think this does expose something that's really important. One of the things Trump has done is he's gotten away with stuff because many Americans don't know any better that he is violating the law. And this is a good example. Most Americans just assumed he had the power to unilaterally decide he was going to wipe out whole sectors of the economy on declaring these across-the-board tariffs on every country in the world. But I have a question for General Mays. You all, as attorney generals in Democratic states, really have an important role right now. Can you talk a little bit about how the attorneys generals in the United States, the Democratic elected people in your position, how you all are deciding what cases to bring against the Trump administration? And is there some kind of process you're going through, or are individuals deciding we're going to sue on this and then asking the others to join you? I think this is really a missed part of the scenario right now, the really important role you guys are playing in trying to make this administration respect the rule of law.
Thanks, Claire. And I totally agree with you. And we are working very closely together. All 23 Democratic attorneys general are working together on these cases. We have now brought, I think, a little bit north of 20 lawsuits all together, essentially as a coalition. A few states, like in this situation, Oregon and Arizona, led this case, but we had other states like New York and I think a total of 12 states that joined together. We are working as a coalition together on these lawsuits, and the lawsuits that we're bringing in, and I'll let Dan weigh in here, but these are lawsuits where the president has clearly overstepped his authority. These, almost all of these, are about the separation of powers and making sure that we protect Americans from the increased costs associated with the actions that the president is taking.
All right,
I mean,
the Democratic Sorry, go ahead, sir. Go ahead, Attorney General Rayfield.
Oh, no, absolutely. It's pretty simple. I think the question is, when you have Oregonians being impacted and you have a president that's violating the Constitution or the law, it's an easy decision to sit there and jump in and file a lawsuit.
The Democratic
Good job. Thanks. Need equipment. Double takedown.
Help me! Help me! Help me!